I'm Iris Doreen Arnold. I was born at Crossways, Thornbury, in a little cottage, 2 up, 2 down, outside toilets. My mother was bombed out of the 1914-18 war up in London and came down to Thornbury, and that's how she met my dad. I was 13 years old the day after the war broke out. My mum and dad had bought a tent. It was like a canopy. I was reposing in there because it was a lovely hot day, and my dad came out and he said, "Come and listen to this." So I went in and they had declared war. From then onwards everything sort of went quiet, and of course the assembly of the blackout curtains and all that went on. My dad made a big frame in which we tacked tarpaulin. Indoors we felt quite secure, but when they kept yelling at us about the lights, which everybody got a packet of, it got a bit monotonous. Things went on practically normal until they started bombing, and then that got a bit hectic when they came over Bristol, you know, Bomb Patch Way and various places. One bomb dropped at the Hackett, which is a nice little farm. And I was in an iron framed bed, and the explosion with the bomb going off, the blast blew, and it sort of pushed me up the bed. So my head was in the iron railings of the bed. So Dad had to saw me out of the bed. One day a lady came to knock on Mum's door, and she said, "Well, I want a couple of girls," she said, "to give me a hand at rolling bandages." The bandages were sent out to the front line after we'd rolled them. I mean, they were spotless when they came, and we wore gloves, and they were spotless when they went. I worked at Thornbury Cinema. It was quite a nice little cinema. They had a sweet shop and a little cafe. The soldiers used to come up, the Maritime Regiment used to come up from Kington House. They'd come in and they had an hour of watching aeroplanes, distinguishing the Germans, what type of German plane it was, and our English chaps. And they used to show an occasional raid when the Germans were firing on our planes. When I finished at the cinema, I got called up and went to work at Newman's at Yate, with a coach drive every day, there and back. Long hours, and well, quite a dirty job really. The Maritime Regiment came to Kington House, and they were at Titherington, a big camp there, but those that lived sort of locally, they could come into Thornbury any time they liked. It sounds silly, but we were skittling for a pig on Thornbury High Street, War Weapons Week. Anyway, these 2 lads barged in beside us and said they wanted a go. Well, it came my turn to bowl up, and I knocked down 8, and everybody cheered. I'd got the highest score of the week. Anyway, because these chaps got talking to us, and Dad very kindly said to them, "Oh, come over and have a bit of supper, lads." So away we went. I remember Fred saying, "Corny's got something to say to you." So I turned to him and I said, "What have you got to say?" And he said, "Will you be my wife?" And I said, "A bit sudden, isn't it?" And we were even engaged. And so anyway, that was a proposal I got. "Will you be my wife?" Never went down on his knee or nothing at all. My husband had been out on a ship to come back with tonsillitis, and they sent him to Tortworth Hospital, the American hospital there. And I can remember walking in past all these Nissen hut things. Everything matched. I mean, even the dressing gowns on the soldiers were maroon colour. I was quite goggle-eyed, to be quite honest with you, to think, you know, that the Americans lived like that in wartime. Anyway, after about an hour at my husband's bedside, because he couldn't talk, we had to talk to him. One of the nurses came and said, "Would I do them a favour?" So she said, "Well, we just had that soldier in over there," she said, "and he's blind." And he said, "Would I write to his mum and tell her that he wouldn't be coming home again? He'd been blinded, and it would be no use to her." And I sat down and I wrote the letter, as plain as I could put it, and I kept it. Anyway, the next time I went, he was more himself. I think he'd come to the conclusion that that was his life, and he said to me, did you post a letter? And I said no. I gave it back to him, and he was so thrilled to think that I hadn't cut him off from his family. Most of the lads worked on the farms, they didn't do much else, and for them to go off, you know, and to face what they were going to face must have been traumatic for them, and worse for their parents, because I know at least 8 or 9 of them didn't come back, and they were only children. As one got killed, we'd mourn that one, and then we'd hear another one, and it just couldn't go on, you know. You couldn't keep on saying, I'm sorry, I'm dreadfully sorry to the mother, because they knew we were sorry. My husband was a gunner on the ships, escorting the convoys of food. He brooded a lot when he first came out. If you ask him a question, it was, oh well, it was so-and-so. And I'd say, well, any more? And he'd say, no, what I saw, he said, I can't relive by telling you. He said, I've got to go through it on my own. But he had quite a lot of very bad nights. I suppose about 18 months before he really had a good night's peace, you know, without dreaming, etc.